On the morning of December 12, 1910, at about 11 a.m., Dorothy Arnold told her mother that she'll be stepping out to buy a dress. Her younger sister, Marjorie, had an upcoming debutante party. A debutante is a woman who has reached maturity age, and that this party is to present her to society as a new woman. Think of it like it's her debut. So, watching her little sister grow up in front of her very eyes at the age of 19, Dorothy was reminded of the days when she was younger and when she majored in literature in college. After she graduated, she wanted to be a writer, unlike her father. Her father, Francis Arnold, was a partner of a company that imported perfume and cologne, which meant that he, along with his family, was very rich. And because of this social status, Dorothy's family did not agree with her aspirations as a writer. But in pursuit of her dreams, she had submitted a story to McClure's magazine, but to her disappointment, it was turned down. And when her family found out about her failed attempt to become a writer, they began teasing her and roasting her left and right. But she was not the type of person to give up that easily, so she submitted it again to the same company, in which she was rejected again. Feeling embarrassed and ashamed for a while, she worked up the courage to ask her father if she could move out and that she could write in the comfort of independence, to which her father said no. A good writer can write anywhere. And so Dorothy continued to pursue her writing career with no success, all the while being tormented by her family. Dorothy put on a navy blue suit, she slipped on a pair of tan gloves, and carried a large black fox muff. A muff is a cylindrical fashion accessory usually made of fur or fabric, in which the person puts one hand on each end to keep warm. It can also double as storage for things like cash. Now, with about $25 to $30 on her, Dorothy walked about 20 blocks south to buy a box of chocolate. After she bought the chocolates and charged it to her family's account, she stepped out of the store and she put the chocolate inside of that muff. Dorothy then walked another 32 blocks south to a bookstore where she bumped into a friend named Gladys. There, Dorothy was having a chat with Gladys and told her about how excited she was about the upcoming party that she's gonna have with Marjorie. Although Gladys would love to stay and chat longer, she actually has a lunch date with her mom that day, so she has to leave. And as the two part ways, Dorothy said that she wanted to go home and she would take a stroll through Central Park to get there. And so the two waved goodbye at around 2 p.m. That evening, Dorothy's mother, Mary, had prepared dinner like usual and was waiting for her daughter to come home so they could eat together. But after waiting past dinner time, then Dorothy still hasn't come home, Mary and the rest of her family became very worried. They called all of Dorothy's friends to see if they knew where she was, but none of them knew where she went. Later that evening, Dorothy made it home and she went straight to bed. At around midnight, one of her friends, Elsie, called the Arnold's family and asked, "Hey, is Dorothy back home? Is she okay?" And her mother said, "She's fine. She just has a headache and she's sleeping it off now." Back on April 23rd, 1909, so roughly about a year and a half ago, a 13-year-old girl named Adele Boaz called some of her friends so that they could hang out for the rest of the afternoon. But before she could do that, she had to be on a shopping trip with her mother, Blanche. Trying to leave her mom as early as possible so she could be with her friends, she told her mom, "I'm tired. I want to go home." Blanche was actually not done shopping and she needed to take transportation so that she could shop somewhere else. But she wanted her daughter to get home safe and not get lost. So she gave detailed instructions to Adele on how to get home. And with those instructions, Adele gave her mom a kiss and off she went. Blanche and her husband Arthur got home that evening at around 6 p.m. and immediately they noticed something was off. Adele was not home. They didn't wait long to call up every relative and every friend and see if they knew where their daughter is at this time of day. But none of them knew where she could be. And so they waited and waited and waited, but Adele never made it home. The Pinkertons Detective Agency got involved in this case, but very quickly they reached a dead end. They speculated that Adele may have been kidnapped and murdered or was involved in a car accident and that nobody reported it. 3 days later, April 26th, Arthur heard reports that somebody had spotted their daughter Adele sleeping in Morningside Park. But he would soon find out that the daughter is not there. In fact, Adele was nowhere in New York. She was nowhere near New York. This was actually what happened to Adele Boas. After Adele gave her mom a kiss and said goodbye, she began going home with the detailed instructions that Blanche had given her. After she got home, she went to her room, opened her piggy bank, and poured all her savings out. With that money, she boarded a train to Boston where she found a room to stay. The next day, she found a job waitressing at a restaurant where her only duty was to cut bread. She worked there for about a day when she accidentally cut her finger, and that's when she said, "That's it, I'm done." And so she took the train back to New York. When she got to the platform, her relatives and some investigators escorted her back home. As you can tell by now, this is a classic case of runaway. It turned out that Adele absolutely hated how her parents dictated everything and how they took care of everything for her. This included having a maid take her to school, to which her classmates made fun of her for. She would later say that I ran away from home because I wanted to show my parents that I'm self-reliant and that I could take care of myself. The sole trigger for this runaway was actually the detailed instructions that Blanche had given Adele on how to get home. The whole time this Adele Boas drama unfolded, it was all over the newspapers for days, and it was the only topic of discussion that everybody talked about, including Dorothy Arnold's family. Fast forward a year and a half later, on December 16, 1910, George Griscom Jr., or Jr. for short, was enjoying his time with his family in Florence, Italy when he received a telegram. This telegram was not one that he would see every day. The person who had sent this telegram to him was asking him if he knew where the daughter was. Specifically, this daughter's name is Dorothy Arnold. It would turn out that the night of December 12th, when Elsie called the Arnold's family to see if Dorothy made it home, Dorothy actually never made it home, which meant that Mary, Dorothy's mother, had lied to her. She did not want anyone else knowing that her daughter is missing because of how viral the Adele Boas incident became and how much negative publicity it had attracted. And so, trying to stay out of media coverage, the Arnold family enlisted the help of a family friend and lawyer by the name of John Keith. John looked for clues all over the household. He visited jails, hospitals, and morgues all over New York City, Philadelphia, and Boston, but he found nothing. And he was doing this over the course of several weeks, which meant that for several weeks, the Arnold's family had little help. But eventually, John would suggest to the Arnold's family to hire Pinkerton detectives to investigate, the same agency that helped look for Adele. But unlike that situation, they couldn't find Dorothy. And this ultimately led to a press conference held by Francis Arnold, her father. During that conference, one of the reporters asked, "Did she run away because you did not allow her to date?" Francis outright denied, but his response was not a simple no. He said, "I would rather see my daughter with a young man who's occupied and busy rather than someone who's got nothing to do." Now, if that sounded like he was referring to a specific somebody, then you are correct, because he was referring to George Griscom Jr. Jr. actually went to the same college as Dorothy, where they became romantically involved with each other. He was a man in his early 40s who came from a wealthy Pennsylvania family. Reporters found out that a few months ago, Dorothy lied to her parents about going to Boston to see a college classmate, but instead, she actually spent a whole week in a hotel with George Griscom Jr. When her parents found out about this, they said, "No, he's not the right one for you. Stop seeing him." But Dorothy did not listen and continued to be in contact with Junior. They saw each other for the last time in November, so roughly 1 month before she disappeared, and it was also right before Junior went on vacation with his family in Florence, Italy. And this was when he received a telegram from the Arnolds asking him if he knew where Dorothy went. Junior said, "I don't know where she is. I didn't even know that she disappeared." Feeling not satisfied, a month later, Mary and her son John, so Dorothy's brother, actually went to Florence, Italy to interrogate him, and they would get the same answer. Junior did not know where Dorothy is and denied any involvement in her disappearance. The investigation would go on for years and there would be no answer. There were a few rumors about what could have possibly happened to Dorothy. One would be that Dorothy simply ran away from home and started a new life because she could not stand her parents. Another one would be that she slipped and fell and hit her head and suffered from complete amnesia. But her father strongly believed that she got kidnapped and killed. Others said that she committed suicide because of her failed writing career. But no theory was as strong as the theory of her getting pregnant, most likely with Junior's child, went for illegal abortion, and died during the procedure. This theory was heavily supported when the police raided an underground abortion clinic on April 9, 1914. This underground abortion clinic was called the House of Mystery, where the police found an underground furnace, to which they found out that that's where they burned bodies, and that there were witnesses stating that they have seen Dorothy at that building. So, until today, nobody knows where Dorothy went. But with all theories aside, here is one lingering question. What happened to the dress that she wanted to buy? How come she didn't buy the dress and decided that she's gonna go through Central Park to go home? Thank you for listening to my very first story on this channel. If you like contents like this, please leave a like and also subscribe.